statement, God is a triune being, is a statement of both identity and predication at the same time. And this is a critical point. So basically, it's a waste of time to do that. Now, you said all thoughts of each person are eternally known by all of them. Yes, that's the necessity of the perichoretic relationship of the three persons in the doctrine of the ontological essence of the Trinity. Reference this kind of thing. There is no problem in that. And to be honest, I couldn't understand the problem he was trying to raise. He was going so fast that I was typing this out, trying to understand what he thinks the problem is, but I couldn't get it. Maybe he can explain it later and we can cross-examine it.
So I want to move on to my second argument, which was related to the problem of indexicals. Now, Matt, do you understand what an indexical is?
No, I do not.
Okay, so then is that part of the reason why you didn't understand what my argument was?
Probably. So I noticed that in his criticism, he didn't address basically anything I said. In fact, he actually ignored some of the stuff I said by saying I didn't provide a logical argument. Yes, I did. And he's got to deal with the syllogism that I offered. You see, the doctrine of the Trinity.
All right, so we just heard Matt's rebuttal. I'm quite shocked because Matt, as an experienced debater, made a huge blunder and a huge mistake. He's criticizing me for not responding to his opening statement in my opening statement. Now, that's just laughable, Matt. You should know, being an experienced debater, that my opening statement is not meant as a response to your opening statement. Now is my chance to respond to your opening statement. And if I get the time to do so, partially what you just said there in your first rebuttal. So it seems like you want to talk a lot about the nature of this debate and me not understanding what this debate is about. It seems like you don't even understand how debates work, to be quite frank.
In fact, he said in a discussion we had a week or so ago, he said two things. He says, I'm demon possessed. And he said, he knows more about the Trinity than I do. Well, maybe that's the case. But for now, it certainly doesn't seem like that's the case. And apparently, I'm getting the impression he doesn't understand what the Trinity really is, because otherwise he wouldn't say a lot of the statements he has already misconstrued as a representation of the Trinity out of time.
Now, you also made a big to-do about me misunderstanding the Trinity and my arguments being based on misunderstandings of the doctrine of the Trinity. Well, maybe we can explore that in the cross-examination or discussion section, but I don't think that's the case. I think that was a lot of rhetoric from you, Mr. Slick, which I'll give you credit for. You are quite slick with the rhetoric. And a lot of gaslighting, quite frankly. There was no argument to demonstrate that any of my arguments were based on misrepresentations. It was just a claim as such. Now, okay, Matt, do you have a question for me?
Yes. Are you familiar, since you failed on that one, are you familiar with the perichoresis? Do you know what it is?
Yeah.
Could you please explain what it is in the context of the Trinity?
Yeah, it's the mutual indwelling of the persons in the Trinity eternally, and it goes along with what we were talking about earlier, that they share the same thoughts, desires, intentions, etc., and actions.
Okay. You spoke of the Son in relationship to God as a Trinity. Now, are you familiar with the hypostatic union?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's the fact that Jesus, the Word of God, became a man in Jesus of Nazareth, and he was one person with two natures, fully divine and fully man. The natures are not mixed or mingled with one another. They are, he possesses them both fully, and that's it. I mean, I don't know how much detail you want on it.
That's very good, actually. I'm impressed. Thank you for getting that correct. Do you affirm that what you just, right?
Do you have a question, Matt?
Yes. So are you also familiar with the communicatio idiomatum?
Yes.
What is that?
It's the idea that the properties that are typically ascribed to each one of the natures, the divine nature and the human nature, are likewise predicated of the one person of Christ, so that they get communicated to the divine person, the Son of God.
Good. Actually, I got to give you credit. Seriously, you know this pretty well. I'm kind of surprised, but that's good. I'm glad. In a discussion that you and I had, you said that I was demon possessed, and you said that you know more about the Trinity than I do. I'm just curious. Do you still affirm that position?
Which part? Both the demon possession and the knowledge?
Yeah.
Well, Matt, you started off by initially the one that forwarded and said, Well, I think you may be demon possessed. You stated it as such, and I just simply returned the favor. It was a bit of a joke, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Well, I understand that, but if I say anything, I would probably have said oppressed, and there's certainly an open room of confusion. So, do you think you still think you know more about the Trinity than me? I'm just curious. It might be possibly true. Just want to know what your opinion is.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the primary and secondary substances in metaphysics?
Yes.
Okay, good. Can you explain what they are, the differences?
Yeah, so primary substances are basically particular things like living organisms, inanimate objects, and you could even ascribe it to parts. Secondary substances are things like the species or the genera of those things.
So a primary substance would also be a particular, and a secondary substance in metaphysics dealing with this topic. A secondary substance would be the universal, not exactly one-to-one, but in those categories. So
yeah. You can say something similar, yeah.
Yeah, it's similar. Did you hear? Now, I can understand you may not have heard. I'm not trying to be insulting in this. Did you follow the syllogism that I gave at the opening?
Yeah.
Okay. So is a syllogism valid?
Your syllogism? I asked you a question about it, so I'm not really sure.
God is necessary to explain reality. God is a Trinity. Therefore, the Trinity is necessary to explain reality. Do you agree that that is a valid argument?
Yeah, well, what does the term God in premise 1 mean?
God is necessary to explain reality. God is a Trinity. So Trinity is necessary to explain reality. Okay. You can say it's tautologous, but we're showing distinction here because it is a predication and identity. But the basic thing is we're talking about God. I say God's necessary to explain reality and that God is a Trinity. Therefore, the Trinity is necessary to explain reality. Is that a valid argument?
Well, I'm just asking what's the meaning of God in premise 1?
Okay. God is the single divine being.
Is God equivalent to the Trinity in premise 1? Or is that a different reference?
It would be the same. God is necessary to explain reality, but we're differentiating and showing the particular aspect of who God is from the Christian perspective by saying he's a Trinity.
It just seems like to me that premise 1 and the conclusion are identical, and you just swapped out the word God for the Trinity because the term you say premise 1, God is necessary to explain reality, right? And in that sentence, God is identical with the Trinity, and in the conclusion it says, therefore, the Trinity is necessary to explain reality. So it's just a restatement of the first premise.
That's good. Yeah, we call that triviality, but triviality does not mean it's not valid.
Make it any more clearer, Matt. Honestly, the first premise you both agreed with, or he should at least agree with if he's a good Muslim, and then you get parted from the second. So when you use the term God in the first premise, that wasn't synonymous with Trinity. If it was, yeah, it's begging the question, but that you weren't using it in that regard.
At first I said I was, because I did say that at first.
Yeah.
And then when I understood what was going on, then okay, let me clarify. Okay. And so, yeah, you can say there's an inconsistency on my part. I'd say, yeah, it was until I clarified it.
Yeah, call it backpedaling, whatever. I mean,
yeah, I'm asking you, when you say that the Father is God, do you know what you mean when you say that?
Yeah, that the Father has a divine quality.
Okay, so the Father has a divine quality. So that is being used in terms of an is of predication. Divinity is being predicated of the subject, which is the Father, correct?
In that sense, yes.
Okay, and then we would say the same thing about the Son and the Holy Spirit. So now the question is, how don't you have 3 gods?
Because God is a triune being is a definition of the Christian Trinity. And what you've done is you've ignored the fact that that the Trinity is 3 persons and the 3 persons is the one God. When you say God, I say he has a divine quality. The divine quality is the essence of divinity itself, which includes the idea of Trinitarianism and the 3 persons, but in the divine quality, but in that is distinction within that. And so the Father is an aspect of that. You got to be careful how you word this, because then you're going to do is get into equivocation and what's called the fallacy of composition.
No, but you're still saying that the Father whatever the Father is and divinity is, the Father possesses fully what it takes in order to be God. He's fully divine. The Son is fully divine. The Holy Spirit is fully divine. It just follows from that, if you have three things, each of which are fully divine, and they're not identical to each other, then the way in which we count nouns, it would be three gods. In other words, the Father is unbegotten and the Son is begotten, correct?
Yes, but in what sense are you talking about being begotten?
Well, that's irrelevant. The point is,
no, it's not.
Yeah, it is irrelevant, because whatever it is, they do not share all of the same properties, in the sense that the Father has personal properties that the Son doesn't have, and vice versa. Do you agree to that?
It depends what you mean by properties as they relate to the ontos.
Meaning that the Father is unbegotten and the Son is not unbegotten.
That's called the economic Trinity. I thought you said you know about the Trinity more than me. You do know about the economic aspect of the Trinity, right?
It has nothing to do with the economic Trinity.
Yes,
that has to do with the ontological Trinity, Matt. How could you make such a blunder?
How could you make such a blunder? I ask you, what is the issue of the begotten? So which is it? You have to define, is it temporal or logical begetting? Do you even know the difference?
Yeah, I do. And the act of begetting is a metaphysical explanation. It's not just a name or title that is attached to the Father and to the Son.
So I don't know what sense you're talking about. You're talking about temporal, you're talking about logical.
If you want to go into the quotes of the church fathers, they say that the Son causally, eternally causes the Son to exist. That's the position.
I would just say logically or temporally.
It's understood as something like a grounding relation. It's an asymmetrical dependency relation.
I don't see if you understand the question I'm asking, but you're supposed to be asking me questions.
I'm explaining to you. I'm explaining to you. The fact of the matter is that the begetting or the divine procession relations is not related to the economic Trinity. It has to do with the ontological Trinity, because the ontological Trinity has to do with the relation of the Trinitarian persons apart from creation. The economic Trinity has to do with the roles and the relations of the persons as they relate to creation, not within themselves. And the fact that you don't know this basic distinction is quite shocking, Matt. I don't understand how you don't know this.
Well, continue to be shocked, because I think you're the one who doesn't get it.
Wow, this is unbelievable.
I've sat here. Yeah, I've been teaching on the Trinity for years and years. Look, I've asked you about. You're supposed to ask me, but you're not clarifying.
I asked you a question. How do you understand what ontological Trinity means?
Ontological Trinity deals with the essence of the Trinitarian being one simple thing, the divine thing.
So it doesn't have to do with the relationship between the persons apart from creation. That's your claim?
That's the economic Trinity, because there's always the issue of the begetting, the issue of the decrees. You should know that, and you wouldn't be asking that question.
Is eternal generation related to the ontological Trinity or to the economic Trinity?
Both.
Okay, both, because before you just said it wasn't a part of the ontological Trinity.
No, I didn't say it's not just an ontological Trinity issue.
I said it was the ontological Trinity, and you said no, it isn't.
No, I don't remember what the context was, what we're saying. So why don't you, because seriously, a lot's going on.
Now you're changing your answer.
No, I have the same answer.
In other words, the Father is unbegotten and the Son is begotten, correct?
Yes, but in what sense are you talking about being begotten?
Well, that's irrelevant. The point is,
no, it's not.
It is irrelevant, because whatever it is, they do not share all of the same properties, in the sense that the Father has personal properties that the Son doesn't have, and vice versa. Do you agree to that?
It depends what you mean by properties as they relate to the ontos.
Meaning that the Father is unbegotten and the Son is not unbegotten.
That's called the economic Trinity. I thought you said you know about the Trinity more than me. You do know about the economic aspect of the Trinity, right?
That's on track, Matt. So I want to move on to my second argument, which was related to the problem of indexicals. Now, Matt, do you understand what an indexical is?
No, I do not.
Okay, so then is that part of the reason why you didn't understand what my argument was?
Probably.
Okay.
I'm going to watch it, Anthony. I'd be interested to see what you say, but I'm sure you'll learn some stuff about him from the debate, because he has certain arguments, and some of his arguments, I'm serious, I just didn't get. Like, what are you saying? Because it was.
That's the word indestical. Okay.
Indexical.
Index.
IND. Yeah.
EX.
IND. Yeah.
EX.
Indexical.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. We've already established that. Now you also make the statement that the Trinity is God. What do you mean when you say that?
The Trinity is the three persons.
In what sense? When you say the Trinity is the three persons, is the Trinity identical to the three persons?
Well, that's an interesting statement because identity and predication exist within the Trinity because God as a triune being is both identity and predication. So I think you're misrepresenting it by separating the distinctions what don't exist and giving us a false dichotomy.
Is the Trinity identical to the three persons?
What kind of identical are you talking about? Strict, numeric?
There's only one sense, but I think the time's up.
Now it was getting interesting.
Matt had some confusion over what an indexical was. He had no idea what an indexical even was. He didn't understand the argument that I was making. My argument was quite simple, that Matt wants to claim that there's only one will or one mind in the Trinity. I'm showing that in the Trinity itself, they cannot perform all the same actions because they do not have the same awareness of propositions. They cannot perform all of the same actions because the Father wills eternally for the Son to exist, and therefore for the Son to perform that same action, it would be him willing himself, which is a contradiction. Now, Matt maybe can do some.
Matt, Matt, I like how you often say to people when you're confronting Muslims, just ask them to explain and articulate what the Trinity is, and what you're finding is.
You did a good job.
Yeah.
You did fine. I don't know if you were serious, Matt, about what you texted me.
What?
Something like you were like, he was tough. Who won? Debatable. And then I said, oh, sarcasm won. I was like, there's no way he's being serious right now. Like, from what little I saw, this dude stood no chance.
I have become more convinced, not only in preparation for the debate, but in light of the debate itself, that the Trinity is not necessary to explain reality.
That's the word indestical. Okay.
Indexical. IND. Yeah.
EX.
Indexical.
Okay, thank you.